How you actually conduct the security assessment as well, well, really you're there to make sure that those controls work. They work as intended. They're doing their particular, or they're causing the desired effect. And your role is to go in and assess it and say, is that security control, does it meet the objectives? If yes, you've satisfied the criteria for that control. If not, you give them a grade of, quote, not satisfied, and you explain why. Other than satisfied. And the reason you make that distinction is there might be, rather than saying they're wrong, it may not be wrong. They may have other considerations here that you need to dig further into before you can say that this control is not effective or not. So if you're going to follow the NIST guidelines for doing the security assessment, these are the results that you should be producing for each security control. Satisfied, other than satisfied, and the rationale for why you came up with that. There are different types of security control assessments out there. There are self-assessments that you as the system owner can do yourself, or like an internal audit team. You can have independent verification or independent validation where you're bringing in an external auditor or an external team to provide that look. Why do you think that's important? You have an internal audit team that goes out and does this. Why do you need an independent look?
Some external clients will insist on it.
Some external clients insist on it. You might be required by law or regulation to do it. And it's general good practice, because if you consider an internal audit team, or actually any audit team, right, it doesn't matter. They have a process that they follow. They have certain tools that they use. Do those tools change from assessment to assessment?
Usually not.
Nope. So how do you know that that tool is accurate and producing good results? Because I can give you several examples of vulnerability scanners that give false results or incomplete results or just completely bad results in addition to the good ones. So how do you know that what you're getting out of that tool or out of that process is actually accurate? You have somebody else come in with a different set of tools and you compare the answers. So having an independent look will give you that ability to say, I really know what's going on here because my audit team, internal audit team found it, and my external team found it. I have high confidence that that's a problem. If the internal audit team found it, but the external audit team said there wasn't a problem there, I need to have somebody go dig into that. Why is there a reason for that? So I've seen, off doing vulnerability assessments, there are several cases where the actual assessment tool that certain locations was using was just flat out wrong. It would go out and assess a Windows host for patches, and it would say all the patches are there. Really? How come I can come along as the independent verification guy, pull up an exploit for this and run it against this computer and it works? Your tool said you had the patch installed on that computer. How is it that I can exploit it? The tool was wrong. It was producing wrong results. And you see a lot of that within the patch scanning area. So independent assessments, completely outside looks at your security controls may be a useful thing to do for you if you're looking for additional confidence that your security controls are working. There are 3 different methods that are prescribed in 53A for conducting security assessments. They are examine, interview, and test. You can pick one, all, or 2 or more. I guess that since there are 3, that's all there is, right? You can pick 1, 2, or all 3 of these assessment methods to look at a security control and go, do I have confidence that this has been collected or been implemented correctly? So generally you might pick one of these as your ingoing strategy, and you'll look at that control and say, yeah, it makes sense. We've got sufficient evidence to mark this as satisfied. If you go through this process and you realize that just by interviewing, you don't have the ability to say whether the control works or not, you might have to come back and pick another method to figure out whether that control has been implemented or not. So the examine method. What you're basically doing here is you're looking at the control itself. And you might be doing some of these activities here, like checking or inspecting or reviewing. So you might look at the operation of the IT mechanism itself. So looking at things, you might be inspecting, do they have locks on the door? Is there a fire alarm in here? You might be doing things like reviewing security plans or security policies. So does the policy exist? Yes. Does it include these things? Policy includes that. So the control is satisfied. You might do things like observing or studying, so watching people as they do an incident response process to see if they meet the objectives of that. You might go through and analyze network documentation, system specifications, network architectures, and analyze it and see, are there any weaknesses in here? Or the controls that they've put in place, do they actually meet what's intended there? So again, what you're looking at is, does it exist? Security control existence. So does a control exist? Is it functionally able to do what it's supposed to do? Is it doing it correctly? Is it meeting the intent completely for us? And can we improve this anyway? So those are kind of the 5 areas that you're looking at when you do the examine method here. Interview. This is rather easy. This is talking to people about how this control is implemented. So interview might be good for, say, security awareness training. So, David, how was the last, security awareness training? What did you learn? Did you learn about these particular things? Yes? Great. Our security awareness program is working. No, you didn't know about those things? Well, those were the objectives of the training because I have the training right here in front of me. If you didn't know about that, that means the security awareness program may not be working as intended. So you might go and interview individuals. You might go and interview groups of people. What are some of the benefits and dangers of interviewing individuals? I'm going to sit down one-on-one with John. I say, John, I'm an external auditor. Warning, warning. I'm an external auditor. I'd like to talk to you about your security controls. Can you step into this room over here and let's talk about the security controls? What's wrong with that? Or what is John thinking right now?
Intimidated under microscope,
Yep.
not going to give too much information.
There's a bright spotlight in that room that we're going to go into shining right on that chair, and it's like an interrogation. That's what everybody believes, right? What else? What have I gotten myself into? I'm going to get fired. So the danger of doing individual interviews is that people are often taken, hopefully not by surprise, but usually because they weren't told about it ahead of time. They're taken by surprise for it, and they instantly go on the defensive. Why are you talking to me? Oh, okay, well, what's going to happen to me if I answer these questions? We get that a lot. So if I answer this question and it's perhaps a negative answer, what's going to happen to me? Are you going to tell my supervisor about this? Am I going to get fired? I mean, these are legitimate questions that are going through interviewees' heads when you pull them into a room, to the point where we've actually had people refuse to do an interview without their supervisor present. I even had one guy ask if he should have his lawyer present. Like, whoa, I don't know what gave you that idea, but let me tell you what we're here to talk about. And, we're not here to search for the guilty and punish the innocent. We're here to find out if, these security controls, since you are involved in it, tell us what you know about the security control. It's not a reflection on you, but people take it as such. So dangers of working in a group. I have a group of 10 people, and I say, how does your firewall work? Do you think your firewall is working as the way it's supposed to be? 10 people in the room, how many answers do I get?
10.
Sometimes 10. That's a bad thing.
Also, if I tell you it's not working, John's going to get mad at me because he's responsible for it.
So you have people selling out other people, which generally people don't do, so they do what? They clam up. 10 people, I get 0 answers back. Or 10 people, I get one answer back. The manager who's answering for everybody else, and everybody else is going, right. So that happens too. You get that groupthink mentality where, we're all going to fall in line behind the manager. He's going to answer the question. Well, that's not what I'm after. I'm after for really what's going on with the firewall and how do you think it's implemented. I want to hear from you and you and you. Management position, great. I'll take that, but I want to hear everybody else as well. The test method, this is where you're actually going out and doing technical assessments against controls. So you might do things to assess like access control, where I try to brute force usernames and passwords. Identification and authorization, I might try to social engineer somebody out of their username and password. Audit mechanisms, so I might try to take activity that I know should be logged and then go review the log to see if that activity were caught. System configuration settings, so seeing if there are patches installed. I might try to exploit it and see if that patch really is there. Physical access control devices, I'll turn handles on the doors to see if it's locked. I'll try to piggyback through secure areas without showing my badge. It works all the time. If you ever need to get into a building or secure area and you forgot your badge, walk around with a coffee pot, empty coffee pot, looking for water. Nobody will ever question why you're there. People will hold the door open for you. It usually works all the time. I've done that with great success. Information system backup procedures. What's the best way to test a backup?
Restore.
Force a restore. Yep. Most of the time that's not feasible because people don't want you touching their operational system to restore a backup. But really, maybe you have a test system that you take the backup and you try to restore it on and you see if it worked. I was on the bad side of that several years ago. I was working in a network operations center, and we had this several terabyte data store. And we religiously, every day, we were making backups of this thing. Slide the tape in, makes a backup. Great, take that out, put the next tape in. So every day we were making backups of this thing. Well, lo and behold, the thing crapped out on us. And we go, it's no problem. We have backups. Go to the backup, put it in, restore. It didn't work. There's something wrong with the backup tape. Okay, well, no problem. Just throw that one away. We'll get yesterday. So now we've only lost a day worth of data. Try that one. Nope. We had to go back several weeks before we actually found a backup tape that worked. We have no idea why the tapes were failing. But now imagine, several terabytes of data, which is constantly being, used in the course of daily operations, and you've lost 3 weeks of it. There was a lot of screaming and yelling over that one. So always, make sure you test your backup.